You see, one of the great paradoxes of life is that God's favor rarely announces itself before it arrives. It does not send a signal. It does not wait for you to tidy up your circumstances or perfect your faith. It simply comes suddenly, unannounced, often in the middle of ordinary days that seem no different from any other. People imagine divine favor as something that builds gradually, like a sunrise creeping across the horizon. But more often, it comes like lightning, instant, disruptive, brilliant, and absolutely undeniable. That's the strange thing about it. You don't control when it happens. You only control who you are when it does. Think about how many people miss the moment of transformation because they are too busy complaining about the waiting. They grow tired, bitter, or distracted, convinced that if God were truly near, He would have acted already. But favor doesn't operate on your schedule. It arrives in alignment with purpose, not impatience. It appears when the lesson has been learned, not when comfort demands it. That's why it feels sudden, because from our limited perspective, it catches us off guard, but from God's perspective, it is right on time. You might spend years in obscurity, working quietly, staying faithful when no one applauds. And then one morning something shifts. The email arrives. The opportunity appears. The healing begins. The relationship restores. What was impossible yesterday becomes inevitable today. That's what divine favor looks like. It's not random luck or coincidence. It's the moment when everything you've been preparing for finally aligns with what heaven has been arranging. But to the unprepared heart, it looks sudden, almost unfair, as if favor just chooses some at random. It doesn't. It chooses those who have been silently shaping themselves for the moment they didn't even know was coming. The human mind struggles with suddenness because it wants control. We want to predict, to schedule, to understand. But God's favor doesn't follow a formula. It flows. It bends around logic and appears in ways that leave you speechless. That's why humility is essential. If you think you deserve it, you won't recognize it. If you think you've earned it, you'll mishandle it. But if you've learned to stay present and grounded, you'll notice the moment favor arrives, even when it comes in subtle, fragile forms. It might be a conversation that redirects your life or a small act of kindness that leads to an open door. Divine favor doesn't need to be loud to be life-changing. You need to remember that favor isn't something you chase, it's something you align with. The reason it seems sudden is because the preparation happens in secret. Every act of discipline, every quiet moment of faith, every small decision to do what's right, these are invisible investments in the timing of God. And when the moment comes, everything accelerates. You'll find yourself in rooms you never entered by effort, meeting people you never planned to meet, accomplishing things you never thought possible. But make no mistake, what looks sudden to others is the result of long preparation hidden beneath the surface. So when you hear that the favor of God will arrive suddenly, don't panic and don't wait idly. Stay awake, stay diligent, stay ready, because the moment will come like a flash, And if your heart is prepared, you won't be startled. You'll be positioned. You'll step into the opportunity not as a desperate soul begging for rescue, but as a steady vessel ready to receive what's been prepared all along. That's how divine favor works. It doesn't ask if you're comfortable, it asks if you're ready. Preparation is the quiet language of faith. It's what you do when no one is watching, when nothing seems to be changing, and when every part of you wants to give up. Most people think preparation means waiting passively for God to act. But true preparation is the opposite. It's an active discipline of the soul. It's building strength before the opportunity arrives, practicing integrity before the reward is visible, and cultivating humility before recognition comes. When you live prepared, you're not proving anything to the world. You're aligning yourself with heaven's timing. You're saying, God, even if I don't see it yet, I live as if it's already on the way. There's something powerful about the discipline of preparation. It's the bridge between promise and fulfillment. Many people hear God's promise, but few prepare for its weight. They want the blessing, but not the structure to hold it. They want the position, but not the patience to sustain it. That's why God delays certain things, not to punish, but to prepare. Because favor given too early can crush you. Success without discipline becomes chaos, and miracles, if received by an unready heart, quickly turn into burdens. Preparation then is not about impressing God. It's about protecting yourself from being destroyed by what you prayed for. You have to understand that discipline is a form of faith. Every time you stay consistent, even when you don't feel like it, you're proving your trust in the process. Every morning you rise to work on your calling. Even though you don't see results, you're declaring with your actions that God is still in control. Discipline is what separates dreamers from builders. It's not glamorous, it's not loud, but it's sacred. It turns hope into motion and waiting into progress. When God sees discipline, He sees readiness, and readiness attracts favor like a magnet. Preparation isn't just about external effort, it's internal transformation. You can look successful on the outside and still be unprepared on the inside. You can achieve position but lack character. You can reach a platform but lack peace. True preparation involves refining your inner world, your thoughts, your emotions, your responses. It's learning to stay calm when others panic, to remain kind when others are bitter, and to keep your vision clear when life grows uncertain. The real battle is not with circumstances, it's with the self. God's favor often waits until you can carry peace within chaos, because that's when you're mature enough to handle His blessing. Many people pray for new seasons but refuse to release old habits. They want new outcomes without changing their routines. But preparation demands change. It means reordering priorities, cutting distractions, and learning discipline where it once felt optional. Sometimes God withholds favor until you develop the capacity to handle it responsibly. And that's mercy, not delay. Because when favor comes suddenly, it doesn't give you time to organize yourself. It simply arrives, and you must already be ready. The discipline you practice now determines how gracefully you'll walk through the doors that open later. So when nothing seems to be moving, don't stop preparing. Every act of effort matters. Every prayer, every study session, every small act of excellence is building unseen momentum. Preparation doesn't guarantee timing, but it guarantees capacity. It ensures that when the moment comes, you don't just witness favor, you sustain it. And that's the difference between those who rise for a moment and those who rise for a lifetime. Be faithful in the hidden place, because that's where God measures readiness. When the sudden moment of favor comes, it won't be the loud or the gifted who stand firm. It'll be the ones who quietly, consistently, and faithfully prepared. Waiting is one of the hardest disciplines a person can endure. It tests not only your patience, but your belief in meaning itself. When you wait for something, an answer, a breakthrough, a sign from God, you come face to face with your deepest insecurities. You start to question whether you are seen, whether your effort matters, whether heaven even remembers your name. And yet the psychology of waiting reveals something profound. The delay is not a denial, it's a development. Waiting shapes the soul in ways that speed never could. It forces you to confront what you truly believe and to organize your life around hope instead of evidence. Most people think of waiting as wasted time, but that's a misunderstanding. Waiting is preparation in disguise. It's the quiet forge where endurance is built, where faith grows deeper roots, where the noise of fear is silenced by the rhythm of consistency. You can't rush maturity. You can't fast forward through divine timing. And so the waiting becomes sacred. It strips away your illusions of control and invites you to find stability within yourself when the world outside gives you none. That's the essence of faith, to remain steady in seasons of uncertainty. When you wait, you're not just standing still, you're learning to see differently. Your perception starts to sharpen. You begin to recognize that every delay has texture. It's filled with lessons you couldn't have learned any other way. Waiting teaches you the art of stillness, the kind of inner quiet that keeps your spirit anchored while life shifts around you. It's a slow education in trust, because when nothing seems to be happening, something always is, just not yet visible. The invisible work of God is often hidden beneath the surface of monotony, and only those who endure the silence long enough ever witness the fruit of it. The danger in waiting is despair. When time stretches too long, hopelessness whispers that nothing will ever change. That's when people make desperate choices, forcing outcomes, compromising integrity, abandoning peace. Those who understand divine timing know that despair is a test, not a truth. It's the point where faith is purified. To hold hope in the middle of silence is to declare, my trust is not built on what I see, but on what I know of God's character. That's not passivity, that's power. Waiting also exposes the gap between your desires and your readiness. Sometimes the very thing you're praying for is being delayed because you're still being shaped to carry it. If it came now, you might misuse it. The waiting then becomes protection. It humbles you, refines your motives, and trains your spirit to recognize blessing when it arrives. Impatience may open the door prematurely. Patience ensures you walk through it prepared. In seasons of waiting, your responsibility is to maintain order within chaos. Keep your routines, keep your faith practices, keep showing up to life even when nothing seems to respond. Structure guards the soul when uncertainty tries to consume it. You don't need to understand everything, you just need to remain faithful to the small things. God honors persistence that refuses to decay under delay. And then, one day the waiting ends. It happens so quietly you almost miss it. A door opens, a prayer is answered, long dormant dream begins to stir, and suddenly you realize that what felt like endless waiting was actually preparation for acceleration. The favor that seemed delayed was gathering momentum behind the curtain of time. When it finally bursts forth, it feels sudden, but your soul knows better. You were being trained all along. Waiting wasn't punishment, it was the path. Divine intervention rarely looks divine at first glance. It often enters through the side door of your life, quietly, subtly, almost disguised as something ordinary. That's the mystery of God's favor. It rarely arrives in the form we expect. We anticipate thunder and lightning, but it often comes as a whisper, a conversation, a small decision that redirects everything. The truth is, most people don't recognize divine opportunity because they're too focused on the dramatic, waiting for a miracle that fits their imagination. But God doesn't cater to imagination. He works through revelation. He hides the miraculous in the mundane to test your awareness, to see if you've trained your eyes to see beyond appearance. The greatest moments of favor are often camouflaged as inconveniences or interruptions. A door that closes might be the redirection that leads to a breakthrough. A delay might be the space where divine timing is setting the stage. But if you're impatient or distracted, you'll miss it. Recognition requires stillness. You must learn to pause and discern what's beneath the surface of your circumstances. Sometimes the phone call that seems routine, the person you randomly meet, or the opportunity that looks too small, those are the vessels carrying God's sudden favor. When you are spiritually awake, you start to see that nothing is random and every encounter has meaning. Recognizing the moment of divine intervention demands sensitivity. It's not about superstition or overanalyzing every event, but about being attentive. Favor doesn't shout, it whispers. And to hear a whisper, you must quiet the noise in your life, the constant anxiety, the internal chaos, the endless distractions that keep you fixated on what you lack instead of what's forming around you. God's favor doesn't need volume, it needs vision. If you can learn to see with faith instead of fear, you'll notice how divine patterns begin to emerge where before you only saw confusion. Awareness is not just spiritual, it's practical. It means paying attention to the present moment without despising it. It's easy to overlook what's in front of you when you're obsessed with what's next. But favor often begins where you are, not where you wish you were. The opportunity that will change your life might already be within reach. It's just wrapped in a form that doesn't yet look impressive. That's why humility is crucial. Pride blinds you to small beginnings. Humility keeps your eyes open to subtle blessings. The prepared heart doesn't demand that favor look impressive. It simply stays ready to receive it in any form it chooses to appear. Sometimes divine intervention comes disguised as a problem you didn't ask for. It's easy to recognize favor when it feels pleasant, but not when it stretches you. Yet the same hand that blesses also builds, and sometimes the building happens through discomfort. You may be praying for promotion, and God sends challenge instead. That's not rejection, it's refinement. The discomfort becomes the catalyst for transformation, positioning you for the very favor you've been praying for. Only with hindsight do you realize that what looked like struggle was actually the path to strength. The moment of divine intervention rarely feels like a moment when it happens. It feels ordinary, fragile, unremarkable. Later, you look back and see that something sacred shifted. A conversation you almost skipped changed your trajectory. A decision you made in faith became the turning point. The point is, you must be awake enough to see what others overlook. The favor of God does not pass by unnoticed. It passes by unrecognized. But to the one who's been waiting, preparing, staying faithful, it's unmistakable. You feel it not as a surprise, but as a confirmation that everything hidden, everything endured has finally aligned. What once seemed sudden now feels inevitable. When divine favor finally arrives, it does not come simply as a gift to be enjoyed. It comes as a responsibility to be carried. Many desire favor, but few are ready for the weight that comes with it. The truth is, every blessing brings a burden of stewardship. The greater the favor, the greater the accountability. When God lifts you, He also expects you to stand taller, to think with more clarity, to act with more integrity, and to serve with deeper humility. Favor is not permission to relax, it's a call to rise. It reveals the hidden parts of your character, because what success exposes, struggle once concealed. People often pray for increase without realizing that increase magnifies everything. Your discipline, your weaknesses, your motives. Favor shines light on who you are when the pressure is no longer external but internal. Before, you were fighting to reach the door. Now you're responsible for what's inside, and that's where many falter. They confuse favor with freedom from responsibility, when in truth, favor is the invitation to greater discipline. God's blessings do not come to inflate your ego. They come to test whether you can handle the platform without losing the posture of gratitude. You must remember that favor amplifies both your influence and your impact. When God opens doors, you're suddenly visible to more people, and visibility brings scrutiny. The same light that reveals opportunity will also reveal imperfections. That's why you must be grounded in humility before favor arrives. If you build your identity on applause, you'll collapse under criticism. But if your identity is rooted in purpose, no amount of recognition can distort your balance. Favor will always challenge you to stay faithful to who you are, not who others want you to become once they notice you. Carrying favor wisely requires perspective. It's easy to forget that what feels like elevation to you is service to someone else. When God grants favor, it's never for personal comfort alone. It's for contribution. You become a vessel through which His goodness flows into the lives of others. The position you receive, the success you achieve, the influence you gain, these are not trophies to display, but tools to build something bigger than yourself. The measure of true favor is not how much you receive, but how much you give from it. Sometimes favor isolates you. It sets you apart, not to distance you from people, but to deepen your dependence on God. When blessings grow, so do expectations. People begin to rely on you, look to you, question you. That's why you must cultivate solitude within success. Keep your heart quiet in the noise of approval. Remember that the same God who gave you favor can withdraw it if you mishandle it. The humility that sustained you in obscurity must sustain you in prominence. Because favor without humility turns into pride, and pride always invites a fall. The weight of favor is not meant to crush you. It's meant to shape you. It disciplines your spirit and reminds you that elevation is not an escape from struggle. It's a new dimension of it. Every level of favor comes with new tests of character. Will you remain grateful when it's easier to boast? Will you serve when it's easier to be served? Will you still depend on God when your life looks like proof of your own strength? Those questions define whether your favor lasts or fades. So when divine favor finds you, don't let it surprise you into complacency. Receive it with gratitude, but carry it with reverence. Remember that you were entrusted, not entitled. God's favor is both a gift and a responsibility, and the way you handle it determines whether it multiplies or disappears. The reward for faithful stewardship is more favor, but only to the one who understands that blessing is not about power, purpose. Becoming the kind of person God can trust with sudden favor is not about perfection. It's about transformation. It's about shaping your character until it can sustain what you've been praying for. God's favor doesn't seek the most talented, the most visible, or the most qualified. It seeks the most trustworthy. And trustworthiness is built in the hidden seasons when no one applauds, when nothing seems to be working, and when your only motivation is faith itself. You become the kind of person God can trust, not by asking for more, by being faithful with what you already have. Every person desires sudden blessings, but few are willing to undergo the slow process that makes them capable of handling them. Favor finds who you've become, not who you pretend to be. It recognizes the quiet strength you've built through discipline, the humility you've developed through struggle, and the endurance you've cultivated through waiting. That's why your private life matters far more than your public one. God examines the unseen, the integrity of your thoughts, the purity of your motives, the consistency of your actions. You cannot fake preparation and you cannot rush growth. You become ready by being real, by confronting what's broken, inside you and letting God rebuild it before the opportunity arrives. When sudden favor comes, it moves fast. It doesn't give you time to fix what you neglected. If you haven't developed emotional stability, success will expose instability. If you haven't learned humility, recognition will amplify pride. If you haven't built resilience, pressure will crush you. God delays certain blessings not to withhold them, but to protect you from them arriving too soon. He wants your foundation strong enough to carry what's coming. Because sudden favor doesn't give warning, it simply arrives, and when it does, who you are will determine whether it remains a blessing or becomes a burden. Preparation for favor is more than discipline. It's also surrender. It's understanding that no matter how strong or capable you become, you still need divine guidance. Readiness without dependence leads to arrogance. You must cultivate a heart that can say, God, I'm ready. I still need you. That posture keeps favor from turning into self-reliance. Because the moment you believe you're the source of your own elevation, you begin to lose the very favor that lifted you. God can only trust a heart that remains humble in every season, both in lack and in abundance. The people who carry favor well are those who live with gratitude. They don't see their success as proof of superiority, but as evidence of grace. Gratitude keeps your soul clean. It protects you from the corrosion of pride and reminds you that everything you have is borrowed. When you wake up thankful instead of entitled, you become a safe place for God to deposit more. Gratitude turns favor from a personal privilege into a divine partnership. Becoming trustworthy with favor also means learning obedience in discomfort. God often tests readiness through small instructions that seem insignificant. How you handle the small things reveals how you'll manage greater things. If you can stay faithful when life is uncertain, if you can choose integrity when shortcuts tempt you, then you're proving that you value purpose more than recognition. Those are the moments when God takes notice, not of your potential, but of your stability. And when the moment finally comes, when favor breaks through suddenly, you won't panic or boast. You'll simply recognize it as a continuation of what's been forming in you all along. You'll step into the new season with quiet confidence, not because you feel worthy, but because you've been prepared. You'll know that at every delay, every test, every unseen effort was building this moment. And that's the beauty of divine timing. It never rewards who you were, only who you've become. When you've let God refine you fully, sudden favor no longer surprises you. It feels like home.